Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I am very excited to bring you a review for the new Transformers Legacy Buzzworthy Bumblebee Heroic Maximal Dinobot. This Dinobot, as you can see, is a recolor of the Kingdom Dinobot, done up in the colors, more or less, of the original Dinobot toy from Beast Wars. He also includes the head tooling that came with the Kingdom Grimlock, which was itself based on the original Dinobot toy's head, so it makes sense that it's used here. This toy is being released roughly around the same time as the Creatures Collide 4-pack, as well as the Toy Colors Pterosaur. So the big focus of this current batch of exclusives seems to be Toy Color Beast Wars characters, which as a huge Beast Wars fan, I'm always going to be down for, because I absolutely loved that toy line back in the day. That being said, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Dinobot's packaging, then we'll open it up. We'll get a quick look at the instructions, and then we'll see Dinobot himself in both Beast and Robot modes. Naturally, I'll be doing plenty of group shots and comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll get my final thoughts. So this Dinobot comes in your standard Buzzworthy Voyager class packaging. We get a big open window right here. We can see most of Dinobot. We get all your branding for Legacy up here and Buzzworthy and all that stuff. Interestingly, as I mentioned in the beginning, he's called Heroic Maximal Dinobot, which is significant in the fact that the Kingdom Dinobot was actually released as a Predacon. So these naming conventions, while they might seem minor, do really play into the origin of both versions of this character. Because the original Dinobot toy was a Maximal from the get-go. Like, he was never characterized as being a former Predacon, he was just a Maximal. And then in the show, we know that Dinobot started as a Predacon and then later defected. So it's just a way to kind of tell them apart. Plus, honestly, I think the reason that they officially made Dinobot a Predacon in Kingdom was just to flesh out the Predacon roster, because they didn't have nearly as many characters released in Kingdom. That's just my theory, but seems rather plausible. Alright, so here we get some really great artwork of Dinobot's Raptor mode. And then on this flat side, we get the artwork of the Robot mode, which looks absolutely fantastic. It's got that token legacy glow to it, and you get these particle effects around it. And it really, really evokes the original Dinobot toy. I think this looks really, really good. They even go out of their way to show off the little hole in the hand, where he holds his swords and stuff. So I think that looks great. On this side, it's just like your regular Buzzworthy stuff with RC, Mirage, Bumblebee, and Optimus. Then on the back, we get renders. You can see my box is a little bit crushed, and that's really due to the fact that these boxes now, without the plastic windows and all that, they're very, very flimsy. There's no plastic shell or anything. It's like a little bit of cardboard in there, and it's really not for the better when it comes to the durability of the boxes, because this thing is pretty caved in looking. Despite all that, though, we get to see some cool renders of the toy. We see he takes 28 steps to transform, which is not a bad count at all. And then we just get his name and the Legacy logo again. So very minimalist packaging. I mean, this almost looks like knockoff packaging, especially with how warped and flimsy it is. But it does look cool. The renders, make for a very good looking toy, so hopefully the actual product looks just as good. I will say, right off the bat, that his colors, his main flesh tone color, this weird pinkish color, it's an odd choice. It really doesn't exactly match the original toy, and it just has a much more pinkish hue to it. And a lot of people have been calling this naked Dinobot. They've been calling it, plucked chicken Dinobot. Because, yeah, honestly, the skin tone's a little bit unsettling. I think that could have been handled better. I think they picked the wrong pigment here, and it does make him look like he's either been skinned or he's, some sort of bald bird. So, yeah, not my favorite choice. Everything else about him so far looks good, though. So let's go ahead and get him out of the packaging. That way we can really properly judge him and see if he's worth your $30-something. Okay, here we get the instruction sheet for Dinobot. And you can see we got... Now, this is funny. Look at this. It says Heroic Maximal Dinobot, and then it has a Predacon symbol. What is that? It also looks oddly stylized. Is that the Predacon symbol from the new movie? I kind of have a feeling they accidentally put that there. Looks very stylized compared to the normal one. So, not sure what's going on there. That's interesting. And then we see the render here. Let me go ahead and open this up. This shows you how to remove the tail piece from his back, and then wield either the combined weapon, similar to the original toy, or pull the sword out of his little, spinning weapon and just place it in his other hand. And then we just go straight to the transformation. Comes all the way around here for Beast Mode. Very cool looking Beast Mode. That's it. That's really all you need. It's not overly complicated, just your simple 2-mode transformer. And now we get to see Dinobot in his Beast Mode, and you can see he sports a deco that's very, very similar to the original toy. Even though I think the flesh tone is a bit off and has a somewhat unsettling pink quality to it, where it should be a little more on the tan side, it is, fairly close to what we had. And then the striping pattern is also very, very similar. He's got the markings on his eyes. He has the yellow eyes with the reptilian pupils there. And then he gets some really nice paint applications. So he gains white paint on the claws for his feet, which is something the original toy didn't have. However, he also gets white paint on the blade of his sword, which you can see sticking out here. Now, to me, this is really, really baffling. So the original Dinobot toy, the blade was just unpainted. It was just the same flesh tone as most of his body. And while that may have, made the blade maybe not look quite as impressive, it made it to where the tip of the blade actually matched the color of his tail, so it just looked like part of his tail. Now he just has a white thing sticking off the end of his tail. So, when it came to the regular Kingdom Dinobot, he was based on the TV show. The TV show CGI model sword had a very distinct color to it, so they captured that color, even though it made it look like he had some sort of weird, sickly, mass on the end of his tail. Now it looks like he has a bone sticking out, which, honestly, I wish they would have just left it unpainted. Like, it would have been more accurate to the original Dino mode, the original toy, original Beast Wars toy, and would have looked far better in this Dino mode. Now, what's really weird to me is, so they spent the budget painting the entire blade of this tail, and we'll see that here for the robot mode, and I wish they would have just taken that and just painted the claws on his hands, because despite, his feet being painted, his hands aren't. I find that really bizarre, and like an odd bit of prioritization there. I don't know. I don't know why they did that. It's kind of annoying to me, but that's what they went with. All right, we can also see, in addition to some of the changes made, they did paint the eyes that, form like the fake eyes in robot mode, which you may or may not like. You may like it because it'll make the robot mode look better, but then of course he's got these weird yellow spots on his legs, so kind of up to you there. And then we also see that they took what used to be translucent orange shins and just made them in orange plastic, which I'm actually kind of okay with, just for the fact that those are load-bearing parts. I mean, his shins carry the weight of almost the entire figure, so I really don't want them to have to deal with the stress of holding him up. I'm okay with them not using the transparent parts. Plus, it also didn't make a lot of sense for his shins to be made out of, glass or something. Doesn't seem very durable. So that's a change I don't have an issue with. Now we get a nice comparison shot with the other two versions of this mold. We have the original use, which is our Kingdom Dinobot, and he's strictly just a show-accurate take on, the Maximal, or in this case, Predacon Dinobot, because technically he was a Predacon first. And then we got the Amazon-exclusive Kingdom Grimlock, which is easily my least favorite use of this mold. And, I covered in pretty heavy detail why that is when I reviewed this guy. I hate everything about what they did. They made all these really weird, unnecessary changes to his pattern. They made him really just kind of disjointed looking with how the plastic's broken up. They swapped out his nice, brilliant gold-colored parts for this really dingy bronze. There's just so many things I really did not like about the Grimlock, especially because I had such high hopes for it. When you expect something really nice and then what you get is highly disappointing, it makes the figure seem that much worse. And considering what a brilliant deco the original Grimlock toy had, all they had to do was copy and paste that, and they really botched it. And I hate the way this thing came out. I don't think they're ever going to try to redo this or give it a better paint job, but if there's anything that needs a redo, it's that toy, because what a disappointment. Another really interesting difference between this guy and these two is that the regular Dinobot, and then coincidentally Grimlock, they have very humanoid-looking pupils. Now, for this Dinobot, it makes sense because that's how he looked in the CGI show, in the cartoon. He just had eyes that looked more, like cartoonish or humanoid than the more reptilian look. For some reason, this Grimlock copied that. Not sure why. Maybe it was just easier to keep that deco. But I do like that they went out of their way to change a pupil for this release and put it much more in line with the original toy. Because if you're going for toy accuracy, it's kind of all or nothing. So I think that was a really good move on their part. All right, here we now get to see our Dinobot in robot mode. So we can get a lot more of those robo mode details. For one, you can see that the inside of his tail weapon is actually painted red, which is exactly how they did it on the old toy, because of that fleshy appearance. Then you can unfortunately also see his tail blade painted in white. I don't know why they chose white. Maybe they wanted to look like, vertebrae, like it's the inside of his tailbone, all that. Sure, I think that's what the sword's supposed to look like anyway. Still really wish they would have left it unpainted though, because the white sword is just, it's weird. I don't get it. And let's see, we got the chest details. So, he's got the yellow painted to simulate the eyes, because, he is using the chest design from the TV show, because not doing so would require very, very extensive retooling to make the chest work completely differently. Obviously, they're not going to do that. So even though it's supposed to be toy accurate, that's one detail they really had to just, live with. Complete with the ribs painted on. Now, they could have really ignored this paint app if they wanted to, and just make it look like it's just all flesh, because that's how the original Dinobot toy looks, right? He doesn't have those cool rib details there. But I will say, since they insisted on painting the ribcage, it looks fine. It does match his other metal robotic parts and everything, so I'm okay with it. The pelvic region is just painted that orange color, just flat orange. They don't go out of the way to paint the little vertebrae design separately or anything, which is accurate. And then of course we see the shins, which are also done up in orange. And then the rest of the leg is just flesh tone, which again, accurate to the toy. So it works out really well. The head, has that nice metallic blue for the face, and he uses a very, very dark brown, similar to the striping on the Dino mode, which, is a bit different from the CGI model. CGI model uses orange, like most of the rest of his armor, but for whatever reason, the original toy decided to go with a dark brown helmet. So overall, I think this thing really, really captures the essence of the original Beast Wars toy. It takes some liberties, makes some changes. Some I like, some I don't like. I do like the, painted nails on his hands. I don't like the painted sword, but, that just is what it is. But for the most part, I think they did a really good job. And if we want to, so this is kind of the toy-accurate weapon configuration, but we can take this out and have him hold his sword in his hand. Now, something that really baffled me when I reviewed the Kingdom Dinobot, I just don't get it. So, he can hold the sword like this, like a normal sword. The original toy actually held it coming out from the palm of his hand like that. And, it looks silly, and I get why they would change it for the show, but there's no reason they couldn't have made this work both ways. But for some reason, they added this little bit right here, this little tab of plastic, over, this bit that juts out if you want to hold it normally. Without that little piece, you could just slide that in there. The rest of that is a 5mm peg, so I don't know why they did that. It would have been nice to have this go either or, especially on a toy-based deco like this, because, we want it to look like the original. So I don't know why that was done. I'll probably never know. I think it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Small little issue. The way the original toy held the sword was always kind of goofy anyway. But yeah, overall, despite, the minor flaws here, like this horribly messed up paint on my copy, that's great, Despite all that, I still think he looks great. And now here we get our comparison shot with the Kingdom Dinobot and the Kingdom Grimlock. And you can see why I really hate the deco on this Grimlock. Nothing about his deco makes any sense. From the way, patterns just kind of cut off at seams. This bizarre thing they did where they, went half and half on his leg colors, and then kind of switched around, and then, went half and half the other way on his feet. And he's just incredibly disjointed looking, which is, again, an absolute shame. The two different colors for the plastic on his tail weapon. Really, the only thing he does well is introduce this really awesome toy-based head, which, the original Dinobot and Beast Wars Grimlock they use the same head sculpt, so because they, could create one for this, that means they can just reuse it for this guy, and it looks really good. So, like, this is how you do a toy version of this mold. Screw this guy. Like, he's terrible, and just makes me angry every time I look at him. And then, of course, we have our Kingdom Dinobot, which is our show-based one. And I think, really, both of these guys look brilliant. Like, they're each doing something different. Neither one perfectly matches the source material, right? He's not a one-for-one match of CGI Dinobot. He's not a one-for-one match of the old Beast Wars toy. But they're both close enough. And I wouldn't even go as far to say that one's better than the other, because these really are just both scratching very different itches for different people. And being someone that grew up with the Beast Wars cartoon, but also the Beast Wars toys, I'm nostalgic for both looks. I love the Beast Wars cartoon. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite Transformer show. And I loved the toy line. I was the perfect age to market to with that toy line. I always thought designs were really cool and different. And, I spent years wanting my own Dinobot figure. Eventually got one in the form of the 10th anniversary. But unfortunately, despite having a cool, TV show-based color scheme, he is horribly riddled with gold plastic syndrome, and my copy is just crumbling apart. That's why I barely even take him out anymore, because I'm just afraid he's going to break more. So I never got, like, the original Dinobot toy that this guy, his colors are based on. I would love to get one, and I would be kind of surprised if they don't eventually release one in the vintage reissue line for Beast Wars. I mean, we just got Pterosaur. He was just revealed today, like as of me recording this. I mean, we knew about him already, but officially he was revealed today. Even though he also got a Toy Colors, Kingdom recolor for Buzzworthy. So the fact that this guy exists definitely does not preclude us from getting an actual vintage Dinobot down the line. And I'd be all for it. Like, I'd love one, not just to have the original colors, but to have one that doesn't fall apart. Because I think it's a great toy for what it is, right? I mean, it's an old deluxe toy. But I want to, be able to experience this thing without it breaking on me. So hopefully, if this guy does well, it'll be a signal to Hasbro that there is, a market for this old Dinobot look, and maybe they'll put it out. If they're not already planning to, maybe they are. So yeah, quick recap for this. Awesome toy, dumpster fire. Terrible, shame-deserving toy that should be booed and hissed whenever we look at it. And this completes our look at Buzzworthy Bumblebee Dinobot. I absolutely love this toy. It just does so much for me as a huge fan of Beast Wars. Yeah, the pinkish flesh color is a little off-putting, but I kind of, forget it's really even there once I start looking at this guy, because everything else about him is just kind of perfect. Again, I really wouldn't have painted that sword white. Would have definitely saved that paint budget for the claws on his hands. But it's a minor thing. I mean, I guess at least that they, the fact they painted it white makes it stand out a bit, so it's not blending in. Though, they could have painted it white and painted his claws. I'm just saying, wouldn't have broken the bank, guys. But otherwise, I think this thing is great. I think even if you have the Kingdom Dinobot, there's definitely a reason to pick this guy up if you like those, retro Beast Wars designs and colors. If you don't have the Kingdom Dinobot and you missed out on it, then you should definitely pick this guy up, because, it's a great mold regardless of what color it's in, regardless of the head sculpt, because both head sculpts are phenomenal. I mean, I just really love this thing. And you would think, like, I must be getting tired of all these toy-accurate Kingdom recolors here for the Beast Wars characters, but, like, I'm not. Bring them on. I have Pterosaur to review here next. I did manage to pick him up, too. So I'll be looking at him, and I don't know of any more toy colors like Beast Wars characters that they're doing, I don't think, as far as leaks. But hopefully they do more. I'll buy them all. I'm good with it. Especially since a lot of the vintage reissues completely failed to use the classic color scheme. So, like, if they want to give us a Kingdom Megatron with a silver helmet, or like a jet black and, light gray Optimus Primal, I'll probably bite, because I really love the nostalgia for these. But even if you're not particularly attached to, old 90s Beast Wars toy nostalgia, if you just want, like, a really cool, toy that turns into a Velociraptor, I think you'll get a lot of fun out of this guy. He's really cool to play with. He's got some neat accessories. He's got a really cool transformation. I think, really, there's just a little bit here for everyone. Of course, that is just how I feel about this new Dinobot, so now I want to know what you all think of this. Do you want to pick this guy up, or if you've picked him up already, are you enjoying him? Is this something that, really works for you, either as a nostalgia piece or just a cool toy? Or do you not want this? Maybe you find his hot dog colored skin off-putting, maybe you just don't like Beast Wars, or you don't like the toy colors, and you'd rather have the Kingdom version. Any and all feedback is always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Transformers Legacy Buzzworthy Bumblebee Heroic Maximal Dinobot. And with all that said, I will see you next time.